afternoon, fellow Rotarians, guests. With me. So number one, I wanted to just talk about SOAR, which is the Safety Officer Award Recognition Program. I think I said that right. If I didn't, no one will know. That we attended on Monday, and it was absolutely amazing. For those of you that have never had to call paramedics to your house, you have no idea how awesome it is that they're there. I actually had to call paramedics about a week ago. My daughter Natalie cut herself trying to cut an avocado, which, just so you know, is the #1 emergency call that the paramedics get, is people who cut themselves trying to cut an avocado. And she fainted. Just had fainted, and she was fine, and they wrapped her hand. And they left, and she said, I just wanted to let everyone know that next year when SOAR happens, I want you to think to yourself, remember that silly story Francesca told about the paramedic? They do more than bring cute paramedics to rescue girls from avocado cuts. So next year, think about coming to SOAR and joining us and honoring the first responders. The second part of my invocation is part of Amazing Grace, and I'm just going to read to you because my singing is not very good. But Glenn, who is doing song today, is going to come up and join and actually help us with the Amazing Grace refrain. But I would like to read this on behalf of Arlene Sirwa. I'm sorry, I'm shaking. I'm hoping I'm doing this without losing it. So Arlene called me the other day, and she said, I need real estate help. And I'm like, okay. And I'm thinking, I don't even know that I'm doing this right because I don't live in New Mexico. And she texted me back and said, you're amazing. I can't tell you how much this has helped us. And her brother is selling because he's on his way to South Carolina because they diagnosed him with an ailment, and he has, they don't think very long, and he wants to be driven back to South Carolina to pass away there. So Arlene is driving him back to South Carolina, probably not like as we speak, but in the next couple of days. So if you will just hold Arlene and her brother and her family in your thoughts through this week, and as she's probably not going to be beds, and I'm going to just read these two verses to you. The Lord has promised good to me. His word my hope secures. He will my shield and portion be as long as life endures. Yea, when this flesh and heart shall fail, and mortal life shall cease, I shall possess within the veil a life of joy and peace. Glenn, would you mind coming up? I will let Glenn take over because my singing is awful.
Thank you, Francesca. I think, to me, one of the best things about being part of this group is that it's a place where I know I have so many sources of grace. And the fact that we come together all the time and share our grace with each other is extraordinarily uplifting to me. And so, as a way of sharing some grace with our absent friend Arlene and her family right now, let's go ahead and sing the first verse of Amazing Grace.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now am found. Was blind, but now I see.
Thank you, Francesca and Glenn. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God,
You may be seated. Mr. Sergeant at Arms, past President Steve Linder, you are ready to jump into action, sir.
Ready to jump.
I know we have a couple of international visiting Rotarians here, so if you could please take the microphone over to Mr. Bob Warner for the introduction.
Mr. Bob.
Mr. President, it is my pleasure to introduce to you from Mexico City, Arturo and his lovely bride, and he brings us his flag.
Arturo Becerra Lopez, I came from Mexico City. My classification is human research, and I have been proud Rotary since 10 years ago. Thanks, Sean, thanks, Michael, to let us join us here. My club is almost as old as this one. We will have 100 years in the next 100 years in the next three years, 2021-7, and I was not one of the founders, for sure. But I'm very proud to be in this terrific, the greatest, almost the greatest club in Las Vegas. Let me tell you something. I would like to. I'm very proud, and I'm very proud to be Rotary for sure. But I can tell you now about the crowd in Mexico, because instead of to speak with you about tequila, margaritas, and la fiesta, I have to tell you about the earthquakes, storms, hurricanes, and things like that. So it's a little bit difficult for us to speak about the proud of to being Mexican. But we are Mexican, and we still standing up. So it's for us it's a very, very good experience to share this kind of experience with my friends, Rotary friends. Let me tell you something, if I can speak how we can get some information or some help from the people who's there. Most of the people in some towns are sleeping in the streets and things like that. So if you are agree, we can make any exchange of portable houses to the people who doesn't want to leave their houses, but the houses are almost falling down. So maybe we can make some exchange with that, with the portable houses. And thank you.
Yes, that's a great idea. Any information that you have, please share it with Bob or Sean or myself, and we will make sure it gets out to the club. And thank you for talking about that, and let's put the power of Rotary International to good use to all you guys out here. Thank you.
And I'm proud.
Gracias, señor.
Right.
Very nice.
Oh, okay. And then we have some more visitors?
Yes, we from Brasilia, we have the doctor and her son. I think, did you want to say
Eu sou da cidade de São Manuel, sou presidente do Rotary Club lá pela segunda vez e estou muito feliz de estar aqui com os companheiros.
Yeah, our president. My mom is saying that she's very glad to be here in the Las Vegas Rotary Club. Our club there is not as old as Mexico City or Las Vegas, because maybe 50 years. And she's very glad to be here with all the fellows from Rotary, and appreciate very much the meeting.
Thank you for visiting.
She is the president of her club, and they own their own building, which we should have. And she's a medical doctor, and very interesting lady. Gracias.
Any other international? Bob? Okay. Then let's move on to visiting Rotarians. any visiting Rotarians?
Passing through on a business trip from Sea Valley, California, we have Amanda Wilson with us. She'd like to introduce herself to the group.
Hi, like Cook mentioned, I'm Amanda Wilson. I work in aerospace. I'm a program manager, and I just wanted to stop out at the club today, meet everyone, and get a class.
Yes, so Mr. Bob Warner will get you a flag for the exchange. Thank you for visiting. Any other visiting Rotarians? Okay, let's move on to guests of Rotarians.
Good afternoon, fellow Rotarians. I have today with me Clint Connor, friend of mine. He's an area manager for ADP, and he has a little bit of interest in community service, so I dragged him along with me. Thank you.
Visiting or guests of Rotarians?
Thank you, past President Linder. I have a guest here today. Her name is Teresa. I'm just going to let her do a quick introduction. That way it doesn't get clouded by my blah blah.
Hi, everyone. My name is Teresa Petronovich. I'm actually new to Las Vegas. I've been here just a year this month. I work for Chicago Title. I do marketing and consulting work. Before that, I worked for the Denver Broncos for 22 years, and I've also worked for the Olympic Committee in Rio de Janeiro. So I love giving back to the community. I've worked with different charities throughout my entire life, and I'm excited to be here, and thank you to Francesca for inviting me.
And this is her second visit to a Rotary Club.
More guests right behind you? More guests of Rotarians?
I'm pleased to have with me today someone you might recognize. My wife, former First Lady, 2012-2013, Sally. And my two sons, Nate and Justin.
Okay.
I'm very honored to introduce the news director of Channel 3 here in Las Vegas. It's an honor for me to be able to write your reviews for the movie.
Mark Ehrman, great to be here with you. As Bob said, I work in news at Channel 3. This is my second stint in Vegas. Earlier, I ran news at Comstock.
Okay.
I'd like to introduce Michael Gordon, President Michael Gordon's guest, Kim Miani. He works at UNLV. He's been here 3 months, and he's already intrigued by what we do at Rotary. So Janet and I interviewed him today, and we're going to propose him for membership. And he's a fine young man, and welcome, Kim. Glad you're here.
Any other guests of Rotarians? Then let me introduce my two guests at the head table today. I have two past presidents. Our first ever president of our Rotary Club, past President Katie Crockett, who, if you went on the tour, yes, she corrected me. She was not the first past president of Rotary. The first female president. I'm sorry. The first female president in 95, 96, when one of our members, Ken Miller, served as a district governor. During her tenure, membership increased to 175 members. The annual auction fundraiser raised $19,000 for Child Haven, and the club sponsored Walter and Donoff, and he became an ambassadorial scholar in Oxford during her time. And joining her is past President Tom Thomas, who's been in the club for 29 years, and he was the president during Y2K, 1999 to 2000. Hopefully the club's finances survived that time. He loves the challenge of running Thomas & Mack Company, a 60-year-old asset management firm serving 4 generations of Thomas & Mack families locally. Him and his wife Leslie have 5 kids ranging 18 to 30 years old, all multiple Paul Harris Fellows, and he became a first-time grandpa earlier this year. So finally, we're initiating a new guest section today, so I would like to call Janelle Lozano up to the front. And she's going to introduce her guest.
Hello, it's exciting, 95th year of Rotary. I thought I'd grace the club with another honorary member. So me and my husband are having a baby due in March.
I try to be a president that's not to be outdone, so my wife is having a baby also due in March. So congratulations. The future guests of Rotary. So please join me in welcoming all our visiting Rotarians and guests. I'd like to thank the following Rotarians who helped today: Tony and Jamie for setup, Sidra and Janelle for greeting, of course John and Marie for tickets, Francesca and Glenn for their moving rendition of Amazing Grace. Our photographer, our stand-in today is Roger Tucker. Past President Jim is away, and then tear down will be Jamel and Lucy. So, Mr. Sargent, if you could take the microphone to past President Brock Fraser, I don't know where he is, to give us an update on one of our members.
First of all, bienvenidos a nuestros amigos de México. Queremos que sepan que nuestras oraciones están con ustedes. Okay? Welcome to our guests from Mexico, and want them to know that our prayers are with them. Francesca's comments, and as I report on Ty Hilbrecht, I've been to see him several times. Each time I keep hoping and praying that it'll be better, and it's been a month plus now, and it's not getting better. He would actually, Mercedes would appreciate and enjoy the visits. She is rather closed-mouthed about his condition. I've tried to speak with him, and barely he gets 2 or 3 words out, and is quite confused, and it's hard to get any kind of a prognosis from Mercedes as to where it's going. But if nothing else, support for Mercedes. He is at the Kindred Hospital on the corner of Russell and Rainbow. His real name is Norman Hilbrecht. When you go to, they don't understand I. So, but she could use the support, and I'm sure that he does recognize you if he happens to be awake. So, his, our prayers are for Ty.
Thank you, Brock. If you could next take the microphone to past President Katie Crockett to give us an update on what happened this morning in our tour and the turnout.
Well, we had a great turnout this morning at 10 o'clock. Dave Thorson gave us a tour of the USO, which was really interesting, the USO facility at the airport. And we're going to hear from our guest speaker today, Mark Patton. We'll talk about the airport museum, and he gave us a tour of the facility this morning, which was really interesting. It was really fun.
Thank you for organizing that, and thank you for that too, Mark.
And President Michael, I have to say, I was on that tour. It was great. Anytime Mark had a question, he couldn't think of the answer, he looked at Katie, and Katie had the answer.
I want to remind everybody that next week our district governor will be here. If you want to meet our district governor Regatta, be here next week. Next, if you can take the microphone to Kurt Holmes, Captain Kurt Holmes, to tell us, this is our second week of our live stream. What happened during our first week?
As you can see in the wheel, during the first week, that would be last week, we had people watching from both Kosovo as well as Australia. So who knows who will tune in this week. And then also all the speakers are available on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, and TuneIn to listen to in case you missed the meeting.
Thank you. So just this week we've already heard Spanish and Portuguese, so our club truly is international. So we're going to continue that through our Facebook Live. And then next up, our favorite principal, who is now going to be international, internationally famous, but I'm assuming she already is. Katie Decker, you can tell us about all the great things she's doing.
Well, as you know, our budgets are being cut. Every day there's a new cut or story about a cut. So we're juggling at all 3 campuses. We do have loss of staff at all 3 campuses. But we still put on a smile and go to school and do a great job for the kids. I brought 3 of my superstars here today. So I have Lola Moore, and she is at Walter V. Long. And what are you teaching this year? 4th grade? She's moved a couple times, so it's hard to keep track of Lola, but she loves 4th grade, so she's doing a good job there. And then I have Kelsey Henderson, who's brand new to Walter Bracken. She is in our 5th grade classroom there, and so far so good. And then Brandy Pineda is over at Howard Collingsworth, and she is a 1st grade teacher, and she does an absolutely amazing job with the kids. And really over at Howard Collingsworth, it's a completely different climate now, and it's amazing, and the kids are reading more than ever, and it's a changed school. It really is, and so is Mom. Things are going well.
Thank you. Keep up the great work. Next up, I would like to call to the front Jackie Thornhill. And while she's coming to the front, I will tell you, people have asked me about my shirt today. And in the Koza culture, it's custom for men to have bellies, because if you have a belly, it means you're rich, you're not starving. It means you have lots of cattle. So I could always hide my belly behind the shirt. But number 2 is if you're rich in children. So I'm wearing this shirt in honor of that announcement today. So.
Hi everyone. Today is Paul Harris Day again. And one of the greatest things that Rotary can do is give a Paul Harris Fellowship to one of our members or one of our members' families. As we know, the Paul Harris is the founder of our club, and it represents a $1,000 gift to the International Foundation, so that internationally we can do the good works, some of which are literacy and clean water, and of course our corporate charitable work is with the eradication of polio. And it also, maybe some of you don't know, that we also are the largest non-governmental entity in the world for giving away scholarships of various kinds all over the world. So some of you may not have known that, but we're also known for that as well. So today we have 6 members that we are awarding a Paul Harris Fellowship to. So what I'd like to start with is past President Randy Donald and his sons Nate and Justin. Please come forward.
Thank you very much. As you all know, this is quite an honor to be able to receive a Paul Harris Award, but it's even more of an honor to be able to share that with your family. So I'd like to introduce my son Nate and my son Justin, and I'm proud to have them here today and accept their Paul Harris Awards.
Next up, I'd like to have members Ted McAdam, Steve Dixon, and Walt Robles come forward, please. This is Steve Dixon for Paul Harris +4. Is Paul Harris +1. And Ted McAdam is Paul Harris +2.
Well, our Paul Harris Fellowships are all giving me pins for everything that we've done. And I just wanted to share that what we do is as a family. And so I want to present Janet, if you would come forward, please, with a Paul Harris +8 pin to recognize our family of Rotary that we are doing this together.
Let's together so we can get a picture. Yes, thank you. And she's going to do double duty, our new Paul Harris +8.
We are inducting a new member today. It's our pleasure to have, I'd like Tyler Wisconsin to please come up and join me. Tyler is the newest member of our club, and we are so pleased to have you. We encourage you. Ted and I are kind of tag teaming today. Rosalie's my co-chair, so Ted's Rosalie today. Only he's very handsome. Anyway, help us welcome and induct Tyler Wisconsin, and say Wisconsin 10 times real fast. Good luck on that one. We are pleased to have him in the club, and we encourage him to get involved, hit the ground running, and it's my observation that he's already one of those kind of guys. So. Michael's going to pin Tyler for us. Oh, no, Ted's going to pin Tyler for us. Yeah. Okay, what's your pin?
I just want to say I'm really excited to be here. I've met quite a few of you and seen to be a lot of knowledgeable people, and really looking forward to getting you guys better and to be more involved. And congratulations on the babies for the both of you.
Thank you. Thanks. Welcome as the newest member of Rotary. Now please enjoy a brief 2-minute lunch and fellowship.
want it now?
That's exactly right. These men and women in uniform, they're heroes to us, and they are very humble, saying that what they do. Exactly right. These men and women in uniform, they're heroes to us, and they are very humble, saying that what they do, they don't expect recognition, but they do. That's exactly right. These men and women in uniform, they're heroes to us, and they are very humble, saying that what they do, they don't expect recognition, but they do appreciate it. Thank you. And they receive a lot of gratitude today at the 16th Annual SOAR Awards. And Mayor Carolyn Goodman joined Rancho High School's ROTC Color Guard along with others to open the program. And SOAR is spearheaded by the Rotary Clubs of Southern Nevada. It was created to honor the ordinary officer who day in and day out performs their jobs in an excellent manner. And this year's award recipients included men and women with law enforcement, the military, fire and rescue, public safety, and traffic incident management. From creating rapid response programs to stopping people from getting ran over by cars, those who received awards say they're very appreciative, but many of them say, we're just doing our jobs.
It's not a self-serving award, it's more of a commitment award. And so for me, I just feel to have somebody say thank you and have somebody notice that and make some of that more worthwhile. But we don't do it for recognition, we do it because we love what we do and we like to help people.
So that is a little video, a recap from our SOAR Award from Monday. Thanks to our guest, Mark, for making sure that got on Channel 3. So Mr. Past President Linder, Mr. Sargent, you can take the microphone to Jenny Goldsmith to give us more feedback on SOAR. How many people were there, awards, everything that we did.
Okay. Hello, can you hear me? Hello. Oh, hey. Okay. So we started the day with a little networking breakfast, which was a lot of fun for me because I got to go up to all of the first responders and personally say thank you. So that was really exciting. Treasure Islands provided a tasty continental breakfast. And then we had Rancho High School, ROTC present the colors. Corey Young, a musician from Orlando, who is also a first responder, sang the national anthem. And we had Mayor Carolyn Goodman lead the Pledge of Allegiance and say thank you to the first responders herself. And it was so cool to listen to the chiefs and the first responders talk about what they experienced and why they were being honored. So thanks to Bob Fisher, we changed up the format a little so that we could experience that. We had about 120 people, but the city council chambers holds 500. So if you guys could mark your calendar for next year, it's always the Monday after September 11th. It's a really great experience.
Okay, and if you can move on to your second announcement.
Okay, also, I know Rampur had done a presentation about the new Rotary Action Group that he's trying to get started, reduce, reuse, and recycle. And we need some support from the club to get it going. By the end of this month, we need several statements on what are we doing to reduce, reuse, and recycle. So if anybody has a common practice that they use at home, if you wouldn't mind just writing a little paragraph and maybe attaching a photo and sending it to either me or Rampur, we would really appreciate it. It's a very important Rotary action group, and I've actually been trying to reduce and reuse and recycle myself.
Congratulations. Okay, so next announcement, Neil Melnick, are you here? Or maybe Rod Tucker, do you want to talk about the Halloween part? Or Lucy or Eric? As you're eating? Talk about reduce, reuse, and recycle. What's happening right here with that microphone?
More like passing the buck. So October 27th, we're having a Halloween event, but also to raise money for the canned food drive. Our focus is on 100% participation from every single member of the club to donate $50. You can do so in the binder that's going around. It's going to be happening at the distillery, and Neil Melnick and Be With The Twist Catering is donating all the food. We also have LVIP Dining and marketing the event to all of their people, so it should be a really fun event. We're also going to do a little costume contest and have raffle prizes there. And all the proceeds are going to go to wipe the floor with the Kiwanians for the canned food drive.
And sticking with the canned food drive theme, I know Melanie Maldani is here. Melanie, where are you? Talk about construction.
Talked to Katie Decker today about construction. We hope it's still going on, but they don't have as many cans yet, so they might have to push back the date. So if you have cans lying around, please get them to Bracken so that they can get that event on.
Thank you. Marie Walsh. Marie Walsh.
Thank you, Michael. First of all, I want to thank all the people that came to Breakfast with Books in September. It was greatly appreciated. Greatly appreciated. And we went over the top. I'd like to give you the exact amounts. I have to put my glasses on. We had a total of 376 people in the school. Children were 235, the adults were 141. And it was the very first time that we won the top in attendance for the month from all the schools. So I'm very proud of it.
I didn't quite catch that. Can you just say, where were we again? What was our designation?
Where was that, what? The top. Well, I don't know. We were the top. 376 in attendance.
So that means number one.
We were number one for the month. And I want to say that we have never done that before, and I'm very proud of the organization. Thank you.
Thanks, Marie. There is a tailgate party next Saturday, UNLV tailgate. The sign-up book is going around, so please sign up. And our final announcement will be Dave Lester, who's standing in for Howie Hopkinson.
For any of you who have time in your schedule and in your heart, Bridger Middle School needs our help. So next week from Friday, we're going to be painting and whatever other grunt work they put us to kind of beautify the school. It's got a few years on it. 10 to 3. You can either email Howie, me, or Sean, and we'll make sure you get on volunteer list.
Thank you. And then for the shortest fine in history, I'm just going to find Janelle Islano. Where are you? She left. I'm going to fine her still in absentia, $95 for her new member. And somebody next year needs to find me, I guess. But that's the way it goes. So moving on, because we're running out of time for our speaker, the drawing today, as you saw, will be $1,147 plus today's take. The number is 3968. 888-3968. Going once, going twice, redraw. Everybody loves a redraw. So that means you would need to draw another one. And while Mark does that, we'll move on. So next ticket, 4013. 888-4013. Jamel.
resource you.
Thanks, Michael. It's my great pleasure today to introduce Mark Hallpat. He is the museum administrator for the Clark County Museum System. You probably know him better from his appearances on Pawn Stars. And he is a great storyteller, as you would know if you had been here this morning. So I'm going to let him talk. Mark.
Well, I figured I'd put on my hat so that you would know who I am. But I hope everybody noticed something. I do have hair. That's something that people seem to think is the reason I wear the hat. No, I wear the hat because I like hats. It's not all that interesting. I came over here in 1993. Just to give you a little background on myself, I've been in the museum field for 40 years. I have worked in and run museums all over the United States. I was in San Luis Obispo County in 1993. I was running the museum system there, and a flyer came across my desk that was talking about the fact that the county of Clark, Nevada, was looking for somebody to help create an aviation museum at McCarran International Airport. Now, I don't run aviation museums. I'm a local historian. So I said, that's interesting, took it home, showed it to my wife, and she said, well, is there anything in there that you can't do? And I said, no, I can do all of this. And they said, well, they say they're not looking for an aviation historian, they're looking for a museologist. And that's a new word for you, museologist. That's what I am. It's actually a profession out there. And so I said, yeah, but you know, they're still going to want somebody that comes out of an aviation museum. She said, no, it's a 29-cent stamp. Send it. Gives you an idea how long it was, how long ago it was. And so I sent in my resume, and I got back this application form. Have any of you worked for Clark County? Okay, well, let me explain. The form you have to fill out is about 487 pages long. And they want you to restate everything in your resume because they don't care about your resume. And I looked at this thing and said, I'm not going to spend the time doing this. And my wife said, no, you go ahead. And I should explain, I've been married 39 years. I do follow directions well. And so I ended up filling it out, sending it in, and I got an interview. Okay, fine. Came over here, did the interview, had 9 people on the panel being interviewed, who were interviewing me. And they got down to the end of the interview, and you know there's always that gotcha question, right? The one that wants to, you know, how are you going to react under pressure? You know, and I'm looking at this thing going, well, this is kind of curious, but I'm just having a good time. And they finally got down to the end, and they say, well, we know that we said that you don't have to be an aviation historian, but since it is an aviation museum, why don't you give us a quick history of aviation with names and dates? And I looked at them and I laughed, and I said, I can do this on San Luis Obispo County because I've been running the museum there. I don't know this on aviation history, but if I was going to put one together, and I started with the Wright brothers and I took it forward, and apparently I did a fairly decent job. I was told afterwards that I'd blown them away because nobody else had been able to come up with something. And because I thought I had no chance whatsoever, I just went with it. And so they offered me the job, and I said, I can't accept it. And they said, why not? I said, I don't know whether my wife and I want to live there. I don't gamble. Well, I do have 2 children. I did gamble twice. And thankfully, successfully both times. But, you know, we said, well, we'll have to come over and see the community. Well, we came over, looked at the community. Colleen went to UNLV, found that she could get, she was going back to school. She wanted her PhD. And we found that they had a program that would work there. We found a community we wanted to be a part of. And we said, okay. We ended up moving over here. And I ended up with a museum that's not in a museum building. And I thought, this is interesting. I'd been in the field for quite a few years at that point.
But the idea of taking the museum out of the museum building and putting it where people are, so that they can go through it without ever having to make much of a decision. Because when you think about it, and this is the same for any business, when you're trying to get people to your business, to your place, now they have to decide to get up and move and come in, and in the museum field it's just the same. You have to decide if you're coming out to the county museum, you have to drive out to Henderson, to Boulder Highway, and go in. Yeah, I know we're only open 7 days a week. It's hard to find us open. But, you still have to make that decision. With the one at the airport, it was interesting because all you have to do is move 2 feet over and you're in one of the exhibits. We're throughout the airport. There's no separate building. And this made it a very interesting and a very fun museum to help create out there. Now, and those of you who were not on the tour today, I'm going to say it again now because I don't want anybody to make the mistaken assumption that I am not aware that Rotary, and especially this club, got us started. The money that the Las Vegas Rotary Club put in at the beginning, and the other Rotary clubs that donated, made such a difference in making sure that the exhibit and government, having somebody from the outside say, we're willing to put our money up on this as well, makes government go, oh, well, then it's okay to put money there. And that's what we ended up with. Now, the Aviation Museum, I should say, is not funded out of your tax dollars. It is funded by the Department of Aviation. All the funds that go into that come from the DOA. And it is managed by Parks and Recreation through a joint agreement between those 2 departments. I'm in a very weird position when it comes to where I'm at in the county at times. But what it allowed us to do was create a museum out there in McCarran Airport, and now in the Henderson Executive Airport, and in the North Las Vegas Airport. We have exhibits throughout all of these. And we have exhibits throughout the airport. So you can be out in A-gates and see what I think it's A-gates, it's either A or B, what it looked like to be a stewardess on Hughes Air West in the 1970s. Or you can see a uniform, a flight suit worn by Howard Hughes. Or you can see a stewardess uniform from Bonanza Airlines in one of the other ones. Or you can see, as you're going past on the moving walkway out to the sea gates, you can see changing exhibits along there. Or you can see some of the liveries of various airlines in the BC Bridge now. And we have these things throughout. And they're all free, and they're all open 24/7, and they reach out to everybody coming into and going out of Las Vegas in a way that nothing else does. Now, this is one of those things, and some of this, those of you who are on the tour today, you will be hearing some of the same things, because I feel kind of proud of them. But this is a way for people coming to Las Vegas to understand that we have a history. One of the main things that we find out when they do intercept surveys of people using the airport, because they do that constantly to see, how the airport's doing and all that. And when they do that and they ask about the museum, one of the things they often get is, it was really interesting to find out that Las Vegas has a history. Now you think about that, it's really not that insightful an idea, but people do not understand our history here. They do not understand the people that helped create Las Vegas. If they understand anything, it's that the mob was here. The mob was thugs. Sorry, they weren't good guys. They weren't here to build a community. They were here to take money out of it. They're not the ones that built this community. A lot of other people did. A lot of people that were involved in this club were builders and movers and shakers here. And so that's the sort of thing that they get when they go through the museum out there, the exhibit. And they don't know they're going through a museum. They're in an airport. You know, all they know is there's some exhibits there. Well, that's kind of interesting. You know, and you get to go over and find out why there's a toilet seat in one of the cases. And those of you who went through the tour today, you can tell your friends about that one. Because there is. There's a toilet seat on display. I see somebody remembers it. Yes. Okay. Very good. But it was one of those things, coming over here, I got a chance to build a museum that was unlike anything that I had ever run in the past. And to really build it up, we did a lot of outreach. We did a whole series of short videos for Channel 4 on aviation history. We have collections, we have research facilities, all that sort of thing. But that's not all out at the airport, that's out at the county museum, because we run all three of the county's museums out of there now. When I started, my sole job was to work at and create the aviation museum. In 2007, my colleague retired from the county museum, Mark Brzezinski. Some of you may have known him. The county said, well, you need to be the interim director. I said, fine. And a few months later, the county was very kind to me. They said, you know, you've been doing really well in a full-time job. So here, have another one. But don't worry, we won't give you any more money, so it won't affect your taxes. And so I ended up running today. I run the county museum out on Boulder Highway, and I run the Searchlight Museum. Now I'm going to ask for a show of hands. How many of you have been to the county museum? Good. For those who raised their hands, those of you who didn't, why not? Come on, we're only open 7 days a week. We're $2 ahead. I've got 30 acres out there. I've got 20 restored buildings. I have a ghost town. I've got walking trails, nature areas. Come on out and see us. We're not open 9 to 4:30, 7 days a week. Remember that. Now, the Searchlight Museum, I'll ask for a show of hands. Has anybody been to the Searchlight Museum? Very good. Okay, we've got a couple. The Searchlight Museum is in the community center in Searchlight. And it's open mainly about 10 to 2, 10 to 3 every day. It's open by volunteers, so sometimes I'm not sure whether it's open or not. But Searchlight is one of those really interesting little communities. Did you know that Scott Joplin wrote a rag for Searchlight? The first man to fly nonstop across the United States was Justice of the Peace in Searchlight. Edith Head grew up in Searchlight.
Wow, really?
Searchlight's an interesting little place, and then there's some senator or somebody was from Searchlight as well. And of course, the namesake of Nellis Air Force Base grew up in Searchlight. So Searchlight is an interesting community, and we have a museum down there that talks about its history as well. And all the time, everything we do, we're always trying to reach out and get people to show up at the museums, come out and visit us. So in 2009, I started doing a live television show for Channel 4. You remember 2009 was our county centennial year. The city was founded, Las Vegas was founded in 1905. In 1909, we became a separate county, named for William Andrews Clark, I always like to point out, who was considered the most corrupt U.S. senator in the history of the U.S. Senate. But he also built the railroad into here, and so there was a reason we named ourselves for him. But in 2009, the county decided they were going to do a live television show on Channel 4 once a month with a round table of old-timers talking about a certain part of history. And they wanted to get some named person to be the MC on this, and everybody they talked to said no. And so about 3 days out from the first show, they said, well, why don't you do it, Mark? You've MC'd things before. And I said, okay. And they said, remember, it's live. Let me tell you something. If you're ever offered a live, hour-and-a-half long television show, say No. And you cannot imagine how much of your body can seize up while that's happening. But I started doing this. That was all right. And then a couple of weeks later, I got a phone call from New York. And it was some production firm back there who said, you know, we're going to be doing a new reality show in Las Vegas. Okay, fine, do whatever you want to do. And they said, can you look at a West Point uniform coat and tell us whether it's real? And I said, sure, I can do that. I've seen uniforms for years. And they said, can you do it on camera? It's like, I'm doing live television now. I can do it on camera. That's not a problem. They said, can you tell us what it's worth? And I said, no. And then they proceeded to explain to me that all the experts on this new show had to say what things were worth. I said, fine, go get somebody else. You know, and they said, well, we'll try you anyways. Okay. They tried me. Apparently I passed. And it was interesting because that very first show, the seller on the show asked me what the piece was worth, this uniform coat. And I said, I don't know, I don't care. You know, that's not what I'm about. I'm about whether it's real. Is it history? Is it something you can teach with? That's what makes it valuable in my world. I don't care what you know. You guys figure out whatever you want to do on the price. And Rick, by the way, it was Rick Harrison's idea to do Pawn Stars. It was not the History Channel. It was not quick on his feet. Because in that very first taping, without missing a beat, when the guy asked me and I said no on the price, he said, I've been asking Mark for years for a price and he just won't give me one. And I'm sitting there at my desk looking at him going, you're good. You are really good at this. So, you know, the show went on. It became what it's become. It is an international success. The show's on in 151 countries, translated into 32 languages. I know we're down in Brazil. I know we're in Mexico. I see lots of folks that come up here when I'm doing autograph signings and that. And that is one of the weirdest things for any museum director to ever be able to say. I do autograph signings. Are you kidding me? Who cares about the museum director? But I did the show not for me to do autograph signings. I did the show to advertise the museums. I figured nobody was going to watch this thing. I thought it was the dumbest idea I'd ever heard of for a television show. Really, what comes into a pawn shop in Vegas? Oh yeah, that's going to be fascinating. I'm good with history, I'm bad with prognostication. But we ended up, you know, the show took off and all that, and it has done wonders for attendance at the museums. People come in from all over the world, and they are coming into Las Vegas to go to a pawn shop, to go to the county museum, to go to an auto restoration place. It is amazing what that has done. And not just, you know, for the pawn shop. It's done wonders for Rick and his family down there. But it's actually done a lot of good for Las Vegas. Because people all over the world know there's more to us than just gaming. There's nothing wrong with gaming. There's nothing wrong with entertainment. There's nothing wrong with the Strip. But there's more to this place than just that. You know, and it has brought people in. We have people, when I'm sitting there signing autographs, I have people who have just gotten married and they walk over to a pawn shop. One that's not a good order. just an aside. But they are so excited. Or they have just flown into McCarran and they take a cab right to the pawn shop. It's a pawn shop. But it's the pawn shop that you see throughout the world. And I can tell you, it is seen, just a couple of stories. My wife and I went to Ireland a couple of years ago. First time I'd ever been there. We flew into Shannon, had the red eye over there, got off the plane, walked up to passport control, And the guy in the window looked at me and said, "Hello, Mark." I'm still holding on to my passport. I'm just going, "Huh?" He said, "Oh, that show's on over here. We watch it all the time." "Yes, sir." "Okay, whatever." You know? The only good thing, by the way, was I could not buy a drink in a pub in Ireland. That was all right. But I was just in Europe a couple of months ago, and throughout Europe, and we were just driving around. My wife and I were just on vacation, and we were being stopped everywhere. There are some gallery guards in the Neue Pinakothek, which is an art museum in Munich, who are very confused as to who this weird bearded guy was that had teenage girls running over and screaming at him. I don't think so. But they knew me from the show. I was stopped in Vaduz, Liechtenstein, on the street by a couple of Norwegian guys who needed to get a picture with me. Now think about that. The museum director from Clark County, Nevada, is in Liechtenstein so the Norwegians can get pictures. But all of that has brought people here, and they've brought people to the museums. It's let them learn a little bit more about everything that we're doing here and all of our history here, and really why we put 2 million people in the middle of the desert. Because if you look at it today, there's a lot of things that don't make sense. But if you understand our history, it makes perfect sense. Why we are here, what we are doing, and why we ended up here. That's what all of our museums are about, is helping people to understand their own heritage. Now, I will tell you, there are some downsides to being recognizable in most of the world. The very first year the show was on, in 2009, first time that my wife and I realized what this was going to do to our lives. We were over in Orange, California, at an ARCO station on Tustin. Anybody knows Orange? And I had just filled up the van. We were getting ready to drive back over here. And Colleen had gotten in the car. I was stepping in. And this guy came barreling across the parking lot and ran up to me. And he said, "I saw the hat. I saw the beard. I saw the license. You're the guy from Pawn Stars." And I said, "Yes, I am." He said, "I hate you." And I realized at that point, in over 30 years of museum work, nobody had ever told me they hated me in an ARCO station. So I said, "Why?" And he said, "Why won't you give them a price?" I said, "Because I don't sell this stuff, I run museums." And he said, "Oh, okay." And he walked off. And I thought, "Oh, this is weird." And my wife looked at me. You know, she's the sociologist. She's a professor at UNLV. And she looked at me and she said, "I'm going to have to start taking notes." She has now done papers on the process of becoming a celebrity. Now, there's a term you don't identify with museum director. She has published on it. There is actually a professional journal out of Australia called the Journal of Celebrity Studies, and she has published in that about how this has affected us. My kids try very hard not to identify themselves as my kids. Wherever they're at, they always get out. You know, that does happen. They eventually find, you know, somebody figures out who their dad is. You know, and they will follow it. You know, my daughter, who's a health inspector up in Washoe County, was sitting in her office one day, and another lady in the office sat down at Ellen's desk and said, "Is it true your folks have 20,000 volumes in their library at home?" And Ellen said, "Well, I think there's more than that. But why are you stalking my folks?" And it was just that she was a fan. Okay. But it does get very interesting. You end up, there is no place you can go and expect to be anonymous. You know, I don't know that any of the tour today saw, but there were a number of people that were stopping and pointing, and when the police officers went by, a couple of them were saying, "Oh, that's that guy." fact, I've thought about just, renaming myself that guy, because I'm always, that's that guy. But it has ended up being a positive for our museum. It is one of those things that has brought the attention there. It has brought the attention to Las Vegas in a different way than a lot of other things. As I say, there's nothing wrong with all the other things, but there is more here than that. So I don't know how much time I have, or whether I need to shut up now.
Yeah, let's take some questions.
Okay, we can do questions. I'm happy.
Because we're live and now you got more fans.
Oh, okay.
And I've got the mic, so who's got a question? Brock.
I'd like to hear a little bit more about George Crockett's, Katie's dad's involvement with McCarran, the land there, and how it's affected us.
Sure. All right. Was it 5 minutes? Okay. And you just tell me. I'm good at shutting up. George Crockett came here in 1941. He was a salesman at that point, selling aircraft. But he saw in Las Vegas a need for a general aviation airport. And so he decided to build one. He looked around for where property would be available. He looked at the property that is now McCarran International Airport. But remember, at that point, that property was 5 miles out of town. It was way out in the desert. So he went out there, made the deal on leasing the land, went to a nearby ranch called the Hidden Wells Ranch, and knocked on the front door and telling the story again. And this was the Nickerson Ranch. And Peggy Nickerson, who was, I believe, 16 at the time, opened the front door, and this young man standing there, and he says, "Hi, I'm George Crockett, and I'm going to build an airport next door." Now today, if somebody stops at your house and says they're going to build an airport next door, is your reaction going to be, would you like to come in for some iced tea? Probably not. But at that point, that was the reaction. It was like, oh, okay. And George built the airport out there. I mean, he was building it from scratch. It was just open desert. He was scraping runways by dragging a log behind a truck or a tractor, doing whatever he could, got the thing started up, opened in 1943, right in the depths of World War II. Think about that. 1943 was not a good time to be trying to open a new business when all of the aviation was being controlled by the federal government at that point. But you could fly private aircraft if you had the private aircraft, if you had the money to get the fuel in that. So he got it open and started doing whatever he could. It became a well-respected airport here, but it was a small one. It was way outside of town. In fact, you know where the Hacienda used to be, right across the street. Well, as late as when the Hacienda got started in the mid-50s, the comment used to be, you could go to the Hacienda or you could go to Las Vegas. They weren't the same place. And remember, that's where the airport was, way out of town. But what ended up happening at the end of World War II is they shut down the original McCarran Airport. Because McCarran's name was originally on the airport that's now Nellis Air Force Base. That was 1941 when that became McCarran Airport. It was taken over by the Army Air Corps, became the training base, but it was still where civilian commercial traffic flew into. Because all civilian commercial traffic during World War II was controlled by the Army Air Corps. You didn't fly anywhere, you didn't carry anyone, unless it was approved by the Army Air Corps. So they could have both there at that time. But war is over, they shut down the training base, they reopened the airport, and then Patrick McCarran started pushing, one, for a separate U.S. Air Force, separated from the Army, and two, to have the Army Air Corps and then the Air Force reopen the training base here. He was very good at bringing home the bacon. And so they decided to reopen that, but they said, it's after the war, we don't control commercial traffic, so you're going to have to find another airport. You can't have commercial traffic on a military airport anymore. And so the city of Las Vegas started looking around for another airport. And they couldn't find one that would work within the city limits. So they went to the county, and the county ended up looking at North Las Vegas and these other ones, but they ended up identifying George Crockett's Airport, Alamo Airport, as the best opportunity. And in 1948, 47 into 48, they worked out a deal to take over the airport from George and reopened it in December of 1948 as the Clark County Municipal Airport McCarran Field. It was the official name. No one ever called it the Clark County Municipal Airport, and nobody could figure out whether it was McCarran Airport or McCarran Field. People would call it both in the same newspaper article. And that stayed the same way until 1965, when it officially became just McCarran Airport. And in 1968, it became McCarran International Airport. So just to, hopefully that filled in some of it. And so
President Michael, I found out on the tour that Howard Hughes used to babysit for Katie Crockett.
Absolutely.
Oh, there you go.
There's another story.
Well, thank you, Mark. Don't go anywhere yet. Rod, I would like to present you with our Share What You Can award, where we are going to present a meal to a homeless vet in your name. So if you can pause and smile for the camera, and as he's coming to the front, I'm sure Mark will is happy to stay around if you have questions for him. And if Ryan Hamilton and Mark can take a picture too, so our resident Pawn Star expert take a picture with the famed one. Thank you. Like I say, Rotary is like tennis. The one who serves best usually wins. Now go forth and make it